Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors special session for March 24, 2026. And we'll have roll call, please. Ms. Showalter.
Schwartz.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Brandt.
Here.
Kurtenbach.
Here.
Leyland.
Here. Would everyone please join us, excuse me, for a moment of silence to reflect on our actions here today. Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1 is the agenda received as proposed as amended.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is received. The hearing begins. This is the hearing on the proposed Blackhawk County property tax levy for the year ending June 30, 2027. We'll begin with a presentation by Michelle Wiener, our finance director.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So we will kind of set the table a bit first, I think. One of the things that Blackhawk County has been working on is a new mission statement and kind of restating our values to our taxpayers. So I think it's a good place to start with the budget because this is why kind of guides us with why we're collecting funds from people. So our mission, cultivating a diverse community that embraces our unique assets, positioning our county as a thriving center for all to live, work, and succeed. And I'm not gonna go through all the values. You can see them on the screen right now, and they're actually on the wall behind me. I wanted to start out with a little bit of background. Blackhawk County is, well, as of the 2020 census, we're the 5th largest county in the state of Iowa by population. We did not gain a lot of residents between 2010 and 2020, only 54. That was 0.04%, the lowest growth rate in the state. And the rural parts of our county lost 439 residents, or 4.22%. In contrast to that, Dallas County, which is in the Des Moines metro area, it grew the most by 51%, or 33,539 residents. As we all know, our property taxes are driven by how much the value is of the property in our county. I have done a comparison here of Blackhawk County with the 10 largest counties in Iowa, and Blackhawk County is the 6th largest currently, so a little bit lower than where our population falls. And I get asked a lot of questions about TIF values, so I also put in a slide. And these are actually from last year's valuation. It's hard to get current year comparisons yet because things officially aren't posted. So 10.5% of total taxable property value in Blackhawk County is in a TIF district. That doesn't mean there's no taxes paid on it. It just, that's how much value is in TIF districts. And those percentages range from a low of 2.7% in Potawatomi County, which is over Council Bluffs area, to a high of 12% in that Dallas County area. So for fiscal 27, our total countywide taxable valuation does show growth of about $96.7 million. That's generating about an additional $552,000 in general basic levy funds, and that is what we use. That's our general checking account, pays most employees' salaries, keeps the lights on, all those kinds of things. So, Oh, we lost a lot of captions on this one, it was there a minute ago. This is meant to show you the rural, property valuation growth. And rural growth exceeded $1 million for the first time in fiscal '27. It increased about 38 million this year. I'm going to. All right. And percentage-wise, I think it's an interesting picture. You can see that our growth has been steadily increasing, but when we talk about the percentage of change, it declined, the percentage of growth declined in 2024, and it tends to bounce around quite a bit. You can see for fiscal '27, it has dropped to 1.5% of actual taxable increase. Valuation growth in the rural area had high growth for fiscal '27, about 3.7, 3.8%, how things round. And that will have an impact on some things we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So those 10 largest counties that we talked about, I've graphed out the property tax receipts for all of them. This is fiscal '26. Again, we don't know what the other counties are doing for fiscal '27. Ours is not even final yet. So I'm working with '26. Blackhawk County is the 8th lowest of the top 10 in property tax collections. So dollars that we collect for our budget. And the rural's a little bit higher, I believe it was at 5th. But particularly when our population is 5th or 6th and our taxes are 8th, that we are doing better than many counties. Then if we look at our tax levy rates, and as we know, that's only 1/3 of the formula with your property taxes, but the county has been able to reduce them since fiscal 2017, and they're kind of leveling out now, but the growth, it's not spiking by any means. I also did a chart, and this again is only through 2026, but I hear so many times that property taxes are going up so much more than inflation. So we did analysis to prove, is that true? Is that not true for Blackhawk County? And this is only for your county share of taxes. I have not taken into account cities, schools, townships, any of those kind of things. But you can see that over the past 10 years, most people's county taxes have fallen from where they were in 2017. And they have not kept, certainly not kept up with the rate of inflation. The consumer price index over that 10-year period, the growth is 33.4%. So your county taxes are honestly not even staying at the rate of inflation right now. Also did some charts to show you crazy what's going on with the computer this morning. This is for FY26. Another question is, don't my property taxes pay for everything the county does? No, they don't. They really only pay for about half. So, and I apologize, that caption disappeared up there. That might work better. But it's only about half. We do charge for certain services, that's about 6%. There's intergovernmental revenue, licenses and permits, and interest revenue. Those are our primary categories. Expenses by classification, again, this is also for FY26. Salaries and benefits to employees, and government is primarily a service organization, so you would expect that to be higher. Computer is wanting to update and I can't seem to stop it, so.
I don't think I can buy that. Conservation's been busy.
Yes. We need money to fix whatever that is. I apologize for that. I swear, it's Murphy's Law. Something's gonna mess up anytime I get in here.
Are you ready?
I think I'm ready. I'm not sure the puck is ready. It takes it a long time anymore. Now it should work, yeah.
Oh.
I know. It's touchy, you might have to touch that. Oh, there it goes. It's your
Alright, there we go.
Okay, all right, let's try this again. Let's see, so I believe we were talking about salaries and benefits being about half of our expenses. For fiscal '26, our capital was larger than usual, partly because of construction funded with ARPA dollars. That was a federal program. So our capital is about 23%. Our debt service is a smaller sliver at less than 5%. And our operating expenses, which is everything else, was 22%. How did we use those dollars? Well, we have to report to the state by something called service area. So for last year, and the ratios will be similar for '27 when we finalize this budget. You can see that our largest category of expense is public safety and legal services. So that's going to be things like patrol deputies, the jail activities that we provide for the entire county, the county attorney's office, those types of expenses. Roads takes another almost 11%. Physical health and social services, 12%. Capital, again, around 22%. Small amount for government services, which would be your services at the treasurer's office, the recorder's office, those kind of things. Conservation is included in environment and education, relatively small at 4.3. And debt service, again, is that 4.7% size. That picture looks a little bit different for the rural fund only, and because the county, the large part of the services we provide is from the rural fund, I thought I would provide that separately. You can see that 35.5% of the rural valuation, expenses, goes for the sheriff's patrol services, another 10% for dispatching services, and then actually the very largest part is invested in our roads. So 47.5% of the rural fund revenue goes to the secondary roads fund. We also spend a small amount, 3.5%, to support libraries within the county and planning and zoning, and then there's a few other minor things such as disaster services. So turning to this year's budget, I just thought I would remind us where we're at this point. We had to turn in our property tax rate information for this hearing, had to be uploaded to Department Management by March 5th, which we of course did. The auditor's office then sent proposed mailings to all the taxpayers in the county. That's been done. So today, we are at step 3 on here. We're holding our first property tax hearing. We will have a second hearing when you actually adopt the budget, sometime in mid to late April, so around April 20th probably. We have to have that done by April 30th. So we will. House File 718 was big law changes affecting property taxes in Iowa. Some of the limits of those that are affecting us in fiscal 26 and 27 both, it limited the growth in taxes based on how much non-TIF taxable valuations increased. There was no, and they actually reduced our basic levy if your growth was too high. we were restricted by that in 26, but for the general levy, we did not have that restriction in 27 because if you remember on the other slide, our growth was only 1.5%. Our rural growth at 3.7% did cause the rural maximum levy to be capped. And last year, our levy that we actually taxed for was $3.70. The maximum rate was $3.95. We weren't at that maximum yet, but we still had a reduction because of the growth in the property values. So for 27, it'll be at $3.67. I won't talk about other things on there. So budget highlights for the budget that we're in. Slides are out of order now, I'm sorry, it's throwing me off a little bit. But we have countywide tax levy of $5.64, the rural levy a total of $3.81, making that's the rural only, so the total rural levy is $9.45. And that is because that rural levy is for properties outside of city limits throughout the county. So they don't pay city taxes, instead they pay the special rural levy, and that covers what we talked about in the previous slide, primarily roads and public safety within the unincorporated parts of the county. So our total tax askings at the proposed levy, which we know we've already reduced since that time, is about $39.5 million. A total increase countywide of $1.2 million. And the assessed valuation increase countywide this year was 8.08%, but out of that, the taxable amount was the 1.5 that we discussed. I also put in a slide, this is similar to the slide we just looked at, but this picks up all the adjustments that the board has chosen to make subsequent to publishing the higher rate. So the rates have come down slightly since that time. Now we're talking about a countywide levy rate of $5.61. The rural still at the $3.80, so the total levy at $9.44. That total askings increase is $1.1 million now. And that's where it stood as of last week. Whoops. So I also, sometimes it's easier to see things, I think, in pictures. So I'm showing you now the different levies that make up, this is the countywide levy only. You can see most of that is that general basic levy of $3.50, 62% of it. The rest is general supplemental, and the general supplemental handles things such as the court administration that the county, some of that's state money, but the portions that the county pays come from the general supplemental levy. Things like juvenile court services, the largest piece of that is employee benefits. And then the debt service is a very small portion, 4% of the countywide levy. When we add in the special rural levy for the unincorporated properties, you can see how that changes. But you have to remember that rural valuation is much lower. Rural valuation is like 16% of our total value throughout the county. But the patrol services, again, that 38, so that mostly covers your rural levy is gonna be the road transfer and the patrol, about 39%, plus they still pay the $350, the countywide pays of 37%. Debt service for them is really only 2.6% of their total bill, 2.9, and the rural supplemental is 1.46. So the budget tax impact to a taxpayer, we use sample values. Properties are required to be revalued every other year, and this was a year that individual properties were revalued. So everyone's property may have gone up or down at different rates. We just have to pick a sample and try to show you an example of what might have happened with your property. So for an urban residential property, the assessed values for residential rose about 10% this year. But the rollback also changed, it went down, making the taxable portions of that total assessment lower. So the actual increase, we're projecting for the hearing today at 4.5%. That's an increase of $12 on each 109, roughly 110,000 of assessed value on your home. Commercial properties at 2.51%. Industrial, and there were some changes in that, so that one's high, 11.63%, but that doesn't affect all industrial properties. There was a change with how warehouses were done. The rural residential is shown on here, increasing 5.45%, and agriculture at 3.65. And I did put in another slide showing where we're at today, that all of those have come down a bit. It doesn't sound like much, but on an urban residential property, the taxes to your property have come down $1, bringing that increase down to 4.17%. Again, that's on each $109,000 of your property value. Commercial at 2.04, industrial at 11, rural residential at 5.23% now. That's an increase of $23 for the year. And agricultural, also an increase of $23 for the year, but a 3.36% increase. I feel like I have forgotten some things I wanted to say with all the things going on with my computer, but happy to entertain any questions from the board or the public.
I just want to make sure that everybody out there understands like what the rollback actually means, because I had no idea until last year. So if you don't know that rollback column, that percentage value is how much that's the taxable value, right, of the house. So if your house, let's say, valued at $300,000, it gets rolled back to 44% of $300,000, and then that's what you get. That's your taxable valuation.
Yes. So I think what's important to remember is that less than half of your assessed value is what you actually have to pay tax on for a residence. That's different for commercial and industrial properties, and it's very different for ag properties. Agricultural property has its own formula. For 26, that rollback percentage was 73%, but because of productivity and things that happened, that fell to 59.4% for fiscal 27.
Something you didn't touch on that I know you have in previous years is because of the change now of this max levy of having to have 2 hearings.
Yes.
That might be something I think important for the audience as well as the public listening.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Question, in our sales tax, 1% of that out of the 7 is supposed to go for roads and streets. I believe that's still correct.
That's correct, it does.
So how much does the state get for that? How much does the county get from that 1% sales tax in Blackhawk County? And has that gone up in the last 5 or 4 years? Because our major employer of private industry, I think, is Deere, and they laid off like 1,200 people. They've called back 100. How is that affecting our county income?
So the local option tax, our collections have risen over the last 5 years, every year, I believe, except possibly one. They're about 4 million, slightly over, is what the county earns a year. It's a complicated formula how those receipts are allocated, but we'll just say we get our 4 million. So local option tax receipts continue to grow in Blackhawk County. You know, they've expanded, a few years ago, they expanded what was taxed under that, so more of your online purchasing should be being captured, and apparently that has made a difference, and it doesn't seem that we're slowing down our purchasing as consumers, so that is growing and helping tremendously with the roads.
And I don't want to interrupt at all
Yeah.
because you will have time for questions and
Yeah.
comments as well. We want to give everybody that opportunity, but I was gonna say
I'll
anything
review.
related to this, but I thought,
Yeah.
especially to the fact of where we are in our budget and where
Right.
this has us and what we
Yep.
have yet to do, might be helpful to
Yeah.
kind of lay
So we, let's flip back to that slide. So we're at step 3 in our process, and that was required by the state legislature a few years ago that we start having 2 hearings. Typically, I would be wrapping up our budget right now and able to move on to other things, but we're gonna be working on the budget for a few more weeks yet. And the board, this is kind of our top levy. At this first hearing, we can't increase things now. So we tend to set that a little bit higher, a little bit more generously, so that the board has time to gather your feedback, gather their own feedback, and before they settle what the final budget will be. Which is why I was showing you the 2 slides for each the tax levies, because they have already made choices since we published this to change some things that will reduce taxes, and they are continuing to do that, and that won't be final for several more weeks yet. Anything I left out?
Yeah, one other thing, I think, this mailing. I think this is something maybe important to comment on because
Okay.
everyone's probably received this
Yep.
and maybe doesn't understand some of that
Didn't
history
I
as well as
bring
what that
one?
is, which is what you're talking about as far
Yeah.
as the numbers.
So each of the major taxing bodies, only the 3 largest, the counties, the schools, and the cities, have had to go through this dual hearing and provide information to the state. And actually Tim's here, so I think I'm gonna defer to him and let him talk about the notices that you all should have received in the mail. There are a lot of estimates on the notices, so they're more of a theoretical document, I think, for you than an actual estimate.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
Hi, Tim Jamison, Real Estate Tax Manager for the Auditor's Office. I'm not sure how much detail you want on the letter, but wanted to point out just a little bit of a misconception about the letter. This letter is actually prepared by the state of Iowa. They set the format, they determine what's going to be on here. They actually provide all of the numbers. They just send that to the auditor's office by law, and we're required to send that out at taxpayers' expense. We sent about 41,000 of these out. It's costing you $32,000 this year to do it. So if you have an issue with how the letter's laid out or the format, that would be an issue with your state legislators. If you have concerns about what's being proposed, you're in the right place to talk about that, at least for the county portion. You want me to go through? I don't know if people have these, but if you look at the county portion of the notice on the front page, the current property tax, the $33,777,308 is what the county is currently projected to collect this year, and at that rate of $5.57 per thousand. The effective tax rate that is shown on there of $5.48 per thousand, that's what the tax rate would need to be if the county was wanting to collect that same $33,777,000 again, not a dollar more, not a dollar less. The proposed property tax rate is the proposed property tax of $34,708,000 is what was proposed to be collected by the county on March 5th when it was submitted. I think Michelle's already noted that's already been lowered a little. And then the rate would go to $5.637 per thousand to collect that amount. That's what was adopted. Beneath that, there's a reason for why there was any increase. You also would have had a school district hearing and city hearing that's on here. If you want to discuss what their tax rates are the hearing times and locations for those are on here. City of Waterloo, for example, is having theirs at 5:30 next Monday night. The school district is having theirs Waterloo Schools is having theirs at 5:00 p.m. next Monday night. The back of the page, the top column shows you where your taxes currently go. for example, if you're in the city of Waterloo, Waterloo schools, and not in a TIF district, 36% of your taxes go to the schools, 47% go to the city, and 12% are collected by the county. And then below that's an example of taxes on a $100,000 house currently that is assessed at $110,000 next year, and what your percentage increase would be if these rates on the front were adopted. So your house may or may not have gone up by 10%. I think that was the average in the county, but I will tell you, I know there's people that might have gone up 30%, there's people that went down. So you would need to check your own assessed value if you wanted to try to figure out what that would be. So I don't know if there was any more questions about it.
If you're gonna be sticking around, it might be.
Yeah, like I say, if there's questions about the format on this, I can explain those, but.
One quick question. If the county decided not to increase taxes, would the state still require you to send this out?
Yes.
We'll mention that to those involved.
Thank you. And the fact that it cost you $35,000 to $32,000 to get the mailed out portion, which has been very difficult for people to understand the last couple of years.
Yeah, we gotta pay the bill, and they set the rules, and they should pay the bill.
We agree.
Is there
But
That
now,
happens quite a bit, yeah.
that 32,000 is just for billing, that's not for the staff time that spend their time getting that prepared as well. So there's probably another couple $1,000s on top of that, just with our labor costs doing that.
Would there be in the future, an electronic version that we could opt in to help save money?
Oh, and not have the mailing?
We would like
Haven't
that,
given us that option yet.
and that is currently in one of the legislative bills that the legislature is working on. Whether that gets through or not, we don't know yet.
There's been some discussion, obviously, for like.
$32,000 on a $35 million property.
All right. All right, we'll wait and do the comments and questions, if it's during the comments and questions time, and then have everyone here and speak at the podium, that'd be great, thank you. Is there anything else, Michelle, you'd like to add, I guess, regarding your presentation?
Hopefully I didn't forget too many things. I forgot some, I know.
All right, we'll move on to item B, to move along, to receive and place on file the proof of publication of the notice of public hearing as published March 12, 2026, in the Waterloo Cedar Falls Courier and the Hudson Mail.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and thank you. Moving on to item C is the public comments and questions portion of the meeting. And anyone with questions or comments, if you would please go to the podium and give your name and address so that everyone can hear. And then we'll try to get your questions answered or whatever comments.
I'm Kelvin Scott, 537 Independence Avenue. I got late notices, I haven't had chance to investigate about politics and to vote. What I'm proposing, instead of hiking the property tax on property, I'm proposing that the county city propose a tax on tobacco products. And especially this product right here was rolling the untaxed marijuana coming into our community. They sell this for $1. I was talking to some stores, they make $2,000 a day on this. And let's see. Yeah. I also heard this morning that one of the reasons for property tax is the cost of feeding jail inmates that went up. My feedback to that is that the sale of the commissary have went up too, as well. The profit from the jail commissary, the last time I heard, was about $150,000 a year. I would propose that the county, that some kind of way we break down and use some of that money a year, implement. So that's what my proposal is. We can, I need to do my investigation, where we can tax some on the tobacco products and the tobacco. Might help me quit. Yeah. So that's all. If y'all go back to the drawing table, it seems like y'all has come almost. Already got your mind made up. But I ask y'all, would y'all take that into consideration? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much.
Good morning, Mark Golden, 217 3rd Street, Washburn. For probably 4 or 5 years, I've been calling the county about concerning a certain property in Washburn. I'm sure you all know which one it is. Yeah. I'm just checking to see what the status is on that property.
Mark, this is probably not the time for that issue to come up. This is just for the budget, that will come
Okay.
up at our regular board meeting.
So I should go sit down.
If
We'll be back in touch. All right, next, please. Benny?
Glenn Andrew, K 316 Prospect in Waterloo. I like to see the 7 values. I like to see the 10% that is used. I'd like to see, instead of us being in the middle of the pack, I'd like to see us next year at the bottom of the list of our counties that we are comparing to. If we were at the bottom, we'd be the best. When you're in the middle, you're one of the sheep. And we do have elections coming, and I'm disturbed to say that if Blackhawk County said we were not gonna increase any taxes or levies, that we'd still have to send this out because that's the state law. And I think that we should, as a group of citizens, tell our representatives that if you want us to do something, give us the money to do it. If that means that gives us extra funding, but all right, we'll do it. If there's no increase, we'll still send it out if you must. We need to be more efficient in our county government. How is that done? I don't know. How many people work for the county that don't live in Blackhawk County is one question I'd have. Because when I've looked around, there's a lot of people, maybe only 10%, but they live outside the county and they work inside the county. Whether they work for Blackhawk County or the city of Waterloo, it's irrelevant. I don't mind that my neighbors know how much we have to pay. But when my neighbors are outside the county, they not only don't know, they don't care. And a lot of this thing is jail operations and planned increase in debt service levy. Well, you can reduce your debit service levy by paying off the debt. But if you don't have the income to pay off the debt, then your service levies are going to increase every year or every time that's renegotiated. So let's get on our programs to reduce our debt on the county level. And then we can maybe even eliminate that little sliver from our budget. And we need to be more efficient. How's that going to happen? I don't know. But one things I do know is that if you negotiate a guaranteed pay raise for your employees every year, like I have heard some employees say they get, and we have no growth, we have fewer people. If you sell something and you've got one person who wants to buy it, that price is going to be what that one person's willing to pay. And so with fewer people, you have fewer people buying the properties that are here, that you're assessing, that you're saying are worth more. But if there's fewer people that are interested, it's not worth more. It's worth less. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do I have to mention my name first?
You-
James B. Roberson.
And this is about budget.
Yeah, it is
Right
about
now.
budget. Exactly. Let me ask you this. what impact or consideration is given to setting the budget, past mistakes by county employees or employee theft? Or like say, for instance, the fact that the city of Waterloo took 30 properties and they asked the county to suspend the county's offering portion for that. Do you take that into consideration? And even, you know, like I've said before, you had the former Black Hawk County Clerk of Court who stole $500,000. Last time I was in here, she was about, what, 10,000 behind now, she's caught up, she paid only $16,000. The court ordered her to pay $100 a month. She was 53 when it occurred. She conceivably lived to be 100 years old and successfully made every payment. The most taxpayers are gonna get back their money is $60,000, 10%. Then you've had other county employees who've also stolen. And as far as I can look, I do taxes. There's been no state or federal income tax evasion case to even collect there, even though they understated the income and broke both states and federal tax laws. What consideration do you guys give to that in setting the budget? And another thing here too, I should mention, the county attorney's office. You've seen me in here about them. Now, I look at it as being inefficient if you have someone who would lie and cause someone to be put in jail, even sent to prison, like they've done me, and I'm still standing, ain't gonna take them forward. And they've wasted all this taxpayer money, the judges that are involved, court personnel, support, all of that. That's a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money, like with those properties that they took them in 2009. So that's been what now? 17 years? No taxes collected? No taxes collected for special assessments on the streets? No taxes collected for special assessments on the sewer? And then the city of Waterloo, their own person who was head of leisure services stole $92,000 when he was saying it costs $130,000 a year to maintain those 30 lots. When you break that down, divide 130,000 by 30, that equals out to $4,333.33 per year per property. You divide that amount by 12, that's saying that he spent $316.11 per month to maintain each one of those properties. Our property they took, that property was 45 feet across, roughly about 60 to 70 feet deep. The grass don't even grow until May. And I've been regularly, unbeknownst to them, I've been regularly taking video footage. They ain't shoveling the sidewalks even today. Half of the lot is uncut. And even then, no income tax evasion case. That's part of it too, because you guys regularly ask the federal government and state for money. This should be a part of it too.
Because I know you bring this up with that.
Oh yeah, I got more than that.
You said you will do it, so we thank you for attending the
All right,
meeting.
but they should consider that because, you know, I understand, like this gentleman said, we're in a different economy. And the bottom line is, when we look at it from an economic standpoint, look, public sector's employees are the only ones who never took a pay cut when jobs were shipped out the country. So that created an imbalance, and it continues to this day. And it continues, and as it goes on, it's going to be unsustainable. And it simply is, it's unsustainable.
Well, we worry about those problems as well, is what we can
I know, but you know, you gotta come to some kind of point where, you know, we don't, you know, we have to take a tax increase on our property taxes, and that's going away, fine. But not when somebody else is messing up money, like say, for instance, taking all those houses, Rook was the only one who was gonna stand and make a profit. He was the only one who was on federal subsidies from the federal government, and he thought those that stimulus money was going to continue. It was like my mom always used to say, don't count your chickens before they hatch.
You're right. Well, thank you very
And
much.
and you see, we have no houses.
Yeah, we have to hear from others as well, so thank you for your comments. Who else would like to speak? I was gonna say there were several that had questions, I think.
Craig LaFredo, 1128 Ridgemont Road, and 720 North Elk Run Road. I have questions about how this is really calculated. Because ma'am, I saw what you had up there. My taxes on our business have gone up over 22% in the last 4 years. On our business. And maybe that's because our businesses are all leaving. We have a lot of empty spaces. And this proposal for businesses is 12.3%. I get it, that it's low in that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
can I talk about that for a
Oh,
moment?
please.
So that the statement that the state mailed out, they make some interesting assumptions. They assumed that all commercial property assessed value would increase by 10%. I have no idea what yours did, but our county assessor told us that the average assessed value increase in Blackhawk County is 1.2%. So it's gonna go nowhere near that. And that's one of the things that's unfortunate about that mailing. I wish they could make it a little more accurate.
Well, I can tell you, at my resident, a few years ago, just the property value went up $38,000, just for the land.
And we need county assessor to address that, but yes, those
Well,
things are
and that's part of the problem, right?
But
We gotta
when
go to the state for this, and we go for the county for that, and we just keep passing this stuff around.
Well, it's meant to be independent. They don't want the county assessor to be influenced. He's supposed to be setting market values of your property. So if you sell your property, the idea is it should emulate what the assessment is.
Wow, so I'm paying taxes residentially on what someone thinks my property's worth. And if I don't get that 5 years from now, does that mean the county's gonna pay me back?
That means that in 5 years, you would assume your assessed value is dropping and your taxes would drop. That's what that means.
If I don't get that, is the county gonna pay me back?
I think you know that we can't do that, but you get.
That's the problem with mark to market, right?
Well, it is, but, yeah, if you have a better way to do it, then sure the state would entertain that.
Oh, I bet they would,
Now, again, you need to understand, when we're setting this, you're not paying taxes on this for 2 years.
Well,
So,
whatever.
when we're setting this, it's 2 years down the road before you're actually paying the property tax on that.
Right, my property tax on our business since 2023 has went up over $6,000. 6,000.
Did you make any improvements to the property or?
No.
That surprises me.
Have you talked with the assessor's office?
Oh, it doesn't make any difference to those people.
Well, but
It's the same on my house. I've talked to them about it and they just say, oh, you could sell it for that. I ask them if they wanna buy it.
there is an appeals process. Correct. I mean, I'm just wondering if you've gone down that road.
No, I
Trying
have
to
not.
understand.
I have in the past.
Okay.
But, it's kinda like teaching to pick this thing, right?
It can be done.
It wastes my time and annoys the pig.
You've seen Babe? It's possible, right? No, the appeals process, there are a number of appeals that do, it is a process. I'm not saying that it is a surefire thing, but there is an avenue to make sure that at least the formula that frankly the state has mandated for all communities, right, that it is a market value. There is a process to appeal the decision from the assessor's office.
It's not a market value, it's what they think the value is. Right?
That is the market. I mean,
Well, it is
No, it's not the
based-
market.
But it is based on sales in your particular neighborhood.
Sure.
And that, it truly is, that's the law. So someone in your neighborhood must be selling their properties at higher rates.
And Craig, the other thing I'll say, as my neighbor, just a few houses away, with all the sales that we've had in that street just in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
with the inflated prices, I mean, that's where we're gonna end up feeling the pain.
Sure, but that's how California calculates stuff, with mark to market stuff. And I gotta tell you, and that's a whole another deal. Will you answer, how do we determine how much goes to a business versus, so, I'm just going by this sheet, okay? So, well, first of all, on the residential, this says 4.55.
Yes.
Does that include the 10% increase?
Yes, it does. So this year, it's a coincidence, but we'll take it. This year in Blackhawk County, the average of the individual property values. Again, some are gonna be higher, some are gonna be lower, right? But the assessor has told us the average for the urban residential category was 9.9%, so virtually 10%, right? But that rollback fell by 6.5%. So while your assessed value went from 100 to 110, the taxable portion only went up about 3. So your value went up approximately 3% that tax rate's applied to. I went through that whole formula, and that's how we come to the 4.5% for a residential increase.
Okay, so I wanna ask that again, just to make sure.
Okay,
So the 4.5%, don't get caught up in what the number is,
okay,
is with a 10% increase.
yes, from fiscal 26, in the value, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, well, that makes a difference.
It does, I agree.
And then how do we decide how much to increase? Because basically this says 12.3% versus the 4.55. 12.3% for businesses and 4.55.
Yep.
How do we determine that?
So the state, again, said you have to use a 10% increase in a commercial property value. But our county assessor has told us it's probably not gonna be that. So when you saw my slide, I did not show that kind of an increase for commercial. I showed like 2%. If in the slideshow rather than the state form. It's one of the weaknesses of that state form. They just made assumptions and they just said, we're just gonna assume all properties went up 10%, whether it's commercial or residence, whatever it is. And so that's what's coming on your mailer, because that's what the state says we have to use.
Sure.
But when I'm calculating and showing you what we're really doing, I'm using what the assessor has told us our county average is, not the arbitrary assumption of 10. So your commercial property is likely in Blackhawk County and again, those are individual revaluations, so it's possible your property they decided was worth more. I will tell you, if you have warehouse space got revalued, so that could be an issue. But if you were a typical commercial property, you had no improvements, in Blackhawk County, you're likely to have a tax increase from the county only, right? We're only that 12% of your bill, but that would only go up 2%. And I think based on conversations the board has been having, it's likely to be less than that by the time we're ready to set our final adopted budget. And there is a very complicated rollback on commercial property now. I wasn't going to go into detail, but I think maybe based on your question, we should. So part of that House File 718 that was enacted a few years ago, the first 150 of your commercial assessed value gets taxed now just like a residential. So that first 150, only 44% of that's getting taxed this year on the first 150,000 of assessed value. Does that make sense? And the rest is gonna get hit with the 90% rollback, so you're only gonna get basically a 10% reduction instead of 55 for the rest of the value of your commercial property.
So the first 150K is that residential value?
Yep.
And the rest of it is
90%. Yep.
And what I wrote down here is that please respond to this, but do you think this is gonna be more, depending on the increase in value, is more of a 2% for commercial?
Yes. This county share only, remember, because I don't know what the city and the school and all those entities are doing.
Although you catch the heck for a whole tax bill.
We have wide shoulders, yes. The treasurer's office will tell you they hear it, the assessor's office will tell you they hear it, the auditor's office hears it, we all hear it.
Yeah.
Craig, what's one of the frustrating parts trying to figure out this budget? There's nothing been consistent through the years between the rollback and then the evaluations. You need to understand the evaluations, reevaluations assessor does only happens every other year.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be you have a bump one year and then it'll stay flat, and then a bump the next year. And I remember in the 80s, they weren't going up, they were diving. They weren't just going down there and diving. And that's the other thing, we have to be awful careful of what's going on in the economy. When we're setting a budget, we're trying to predict what's gonna be going on 18 months from now. So, but there's nothing consistent, and that's the most frustrating part about this. What we do this year is not what we were able to do last year, and it won't be what we were able to do next year. We're trying to do the best we can with what the information we have, and stay within the parameters that we have to work through.
But back in the 80s, the valuation was different. And
Probably,
this
yes.
wasn't just mark-to-market stuff. It was about valuating which compared to your neighbors, and as a rule, your assessed value was way lower.
My guess
Assessed
is-
value, not back to the 44%, the assessed value was way lower, and then at some point, we decided that, oh, because the price is going way up, this is me, I'm not saying you're saying this, then we gotta go mark-to-market, and it just,
And that's really the state that made that determination.
Yeah.
The state law absolutely requires the assessed value be set to market value.
Sure.
That's not.
yeah. Well, once again, we gotta go to the auditor, then we go to the state, then we go to the county, then we go to the school board. That's, I mean, it's
It's a process.
it's,
It is.
so, okay, well, thanks for your time, and thanks for what you do.
No problem.
And thanks for
And
listening
if
to
you
me
have
about it.
questions, call at any time.
Yeah, I mean, I can, we can walk through your calculations on your property.
I'm sure it's way too high, I think it's way too high.
But I'd be glad to show you what it would actually be if you wanna give me a call later.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, please.
Thank you. I'm not gonna be complicated like all this other stuff. I got a simple questions.
Your name
Oh,
and
I'm
address.
sorry.
Name and address.
I'm from, I live at 1350 Newell Street. My name is O.B. Sadler, born in 1942. So I'm 83 years old. But I got a concern. Got a big concern. So you telling me that the state of Iowa mandates some of what we're talking about today?
What I said was that they mandate that assessed values be set at market value.
Okay, but see, I got a problem. I have a problem with the market value. I built my house in 1984. It was an old house I remodeled. My house in those years didn't go up in value itself. But it's an older house. It's going like this. My taxes go like this. I'm simplifying some things. I'm not into this. I'm looking at my budget. I'm 83 years old. 83 years old. Everything is going up, but I deal with the stock market. My money there grows. My house doesn't grow, folks. My house goes like this.
But are you sure about that?
I'm sure about everything I'm talking about. Don't ask me if I'm sure. You know how I'm sure?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Sure, I can answer that. I had a house fire.
Okay.
The assessor came out. The guy came out. I asked him a couple of questions. He couldn't understand either. Why was it my value went up that much? And I understand you don't pay. Yeah, I understand that separation. I'm talking about my checkbook when I have to pay. About my checkbook when I got to pay taxes. I don't understand how. Because 4 blocks away, a guy sold a house. You're gonna tell me I gotta sell my house compared to what he sold his house for? That doesn't make sense to me, because you know why? I don't live in this house. He don't pay my bills. He don't climb a ladder and put your siding back on because you can't afford to hire a contractor to come out. He's not the one that mows my lawn. I'm 83 years old. I'm the one that got to pay the bills, not the guy 4 blocks away. So I guess what I'm saying is, and you're not going to answer, that's okay. I appreciate coming to your meeting. But as far as I'm concerned, somebody said something's not been efficient. I don't get a raise. When you be 83 years old, let's see how much raise you get every year. See how much raise you get. You laugh and sit around now, but be 83 years old. And by the way, I'm going to brag. I got a 6-year-old daughter. Yeah, I made it myself. Made it myself. You raise a kid, I'm telling you, my oldest son is an attorney. Opie Sadler Jr., he worked here and in Phoenix. My other son, Shane, played football for Notre Dame. All my kids went to college. I paid for that out of my pocket. But guess what's happened? I don't work anymore. But everything is going up, folks. So the only thing I'm asking, I came to this meeting because I want to learn something. But guess what? I worked in investment as a security person, so insurance and investments, retired for 27 years. I don't understand our county. I don't understand how we operate out of our budget, outside of money that's available. I appreciate that. We're operating on monies because you set up, or the county, I'll say the state, somebody, set up a figure. At my house, I don't do it that way. I look at my income and I set a budget. I don't say I'm gonna spend this and then come to you and beg you for money. I'm not gonna have a house where they used to have a party to pay the rent. I'm not gonna have a rent party, so you help me pay my rent. They help me pay my rent. So from the county, I talked to a couple attorneys, and they said it doesn't make sense what's happening, I'm saying to me right now. Because when the young man came around to assess my house, I'm going, now wait a minute. Why are we going this route? So I guess I'm gonna shut up, because another thing I don't understand is this. It's not your fault, but why are we having meetings? Why do we get the notice this late? We don't get a chance to evaluate this. And why be on this sheet of paper? We got 2 meetings almost at the same time with the city and with schools. I mean, that doesn't, whoever came up with this system, they're nuts. No, I'm just serious, because you look at that, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but I'll speak a little bit to the hearing. So, we're all independent bodies, right?
I understand that.
Yeah, so
I work for the school system. I know that's different than the county.
Yeah, so we each go through our process, and probably at the same meetings, we're setting those dates. So there's really no way for any of us to necessarily know the date and time the other entity's choosing to set their hearing. The state would have to design a new
Yes, ma'am,
system.
No, I appreciate what you guys, I really do. I mean, I vote. I'm not saying I don't appreciate it, I just said I don't understand it. Am I making sense?
Yes,
I'm just saying I don't understand this. I don't understand when I get my tax bill, when the assessor came to my house this year, I'm going, now wait a minute. You drove by my house, but you assessed at a different rate. You didn't even come in my house. You drove by my house. Explanation, because somebody, top of the hill of, I live across the street from Red Carpet, top of the hill closer to Idaho Street, sold a house for the value. So now they're gonna charge, anyway, thanks a lot.
You actually do understand the process. Maybe you don't agree with the process.
No, I don't understand the process. I'll tell you why. Because when things are crooked, you know they're crooked. That doesn't mean you understand.
Okay, you don't understand why, yes.
No, I told you already. I appreciate what you did today. But the things that we're doing today doesn't fit the common people in the neighborhood. But I'm saying I appreciate you. We vote for you guys every year. So that's why I'm here today. I'm trying to understand this. But I've talked to 2 different attorneys and they don't understand it. My son is an attorney. He doesn't understand it. But so I just want to express that, but I appreciate, thank you for letting me talk a bit. Anybody else in here that's over age? Well, yeah, we got one more. So people that's older, you understand that. You don't understand the concern here. I'm just hoping that you got another meeting. But what's gonna happen is you say, now we gotta go to the county assessor's office to appeal. So we gotta go through all this stuff. Okay, anyway.
Well, the assessors, you do know, sounds like you do, the assessor's office is in this building.
I already know that.
But they are independent from us, we have nothing.
No, but I'm just telling, okay. See, in other words, the system that we're under doesn't make sense, because we passed the buck. And then we said, well, you can appeal it. Here's my question. If you know it's wrong, why do I have to appeal it? I mean, it doesn't make sense. You're paying money to a person that knows it's wrong, so now we gotta appeal it. So you come here, so people are getting paid to correct something that they know is not correct. That doesn't make sense, that's all I'm saying. We're paying money
I know,
to that, but anyway.
I know.
So one of these days,
It's
we'll
tough.
find out what everybody's job, qualification, not qualifications, but job descriptions are. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, because I think we look at this every week and wait
Sure.
for legislation, different things that
Yeah.
are still occurring, and wonder how we're going to handle
And I
those.
appreciate that.
Same way you do, I mean, like you're looking at them, we look at a
Anyway,
different scope.
thanks a
We
lot
are
for your time.
taxpayers.
Appreciate it.
If you have something to add, that you'd like to add, or a completely different question, okay, please.
I have just something brief to add.
Oh, but still, please step up and
And,
make sure you're publicly recorded.
How many voters in Blackhawk County are retired, fixed income, or pretty close to fixed? Because there is a little bit of bump in Social Security, but you can't live on Social Security.
That's right.
And since you're all elected officials, except a few, when it comes time to vote, how many people that are retired vote? Most of your voters are retired. And so, for your own job security, I think that you should pay attention a lot to the people that are retired and on close fixed income. And the state is starting to do it a little bit when they reduce, they give you a little bit of a discount on your property tax. But the county needs to do it to say, oh yeah, next year we'll have maybe 2,000, 3,000 more retired people because the population is older and getting older. And I think Blackhawk County needs to look at where their population is going, their age, and sit there and say, oh, we've got to do better than a balanced budget. We've got to reduce our budget because our income next year won't be as much as it is this year unless there's going to be maybe Amazon coming to town and making a data center, which is pretty unlikely. So you like you said, you can spend the money you got in your pocket. Don't spend the money you think you're going to get. And so therefore, I hope that you can come out with a budget that's lower than this year's. And if we're only 7 out of the 9, I think your goal should be to be 10 out of the 10. Be the lowest county assessment in the state. Thank you.
Yes, a completely different subject?
It is.
Okay.
This is, with regard to the gentleman that had, business property, or commercial property.
Yeah.
I wanted to get into business, right? And I've been thinking about it for a while. I could be Walmart and clothes prices and better quality. But when I look at what it costs to rent something here, as opposed to, I can go down to Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and get twice the square footage, right? Or more, for less than half the money and have 10 times the foot traffic. When you look at the demographics of Waterloo, this is not a place to open a business.
Right.
It's just not. You know, your initial costs are too high. I deal with a lot of people who ask me questions because I do taxes, and you know, and they know I know a little bit when it comes to accounting. I got a degree in accounting, and I tell them, and their first thing is to jump out and go get this big loan and go do this. And I said, no, don't do that. That's the wrong thing to do when you're a small business. I can go over in 7 Mile. My sister teaches school full time. She gets a booth in 7 Mile Ferry between Chicago and Milwaukee, 7 miles in-store flea market. Just on the weekends, paying $200-300 a month for rent. She made thousands. Because you got the foot traffic and it's Waterloo used to be a community where it was easy to get for a small business owner to get off the ground. But now, because of these costs, it's just prohibited. And when you look at the demographics, you're really in an economically depressed area. It's not feasible to spend a lot of money to try to get in business here. Look at the failure rate. Look at the grocery store. No, I mean, so you should rethink. I don't know, like he says, I don't know what's going to have to happen, but if you want this community to jump up, like my old cousin who died 3 years ago, she said, Brian, let me tell you something. She was 100 years old. She said, when you go to a town, I don't care how big it is or how small it is, if it's popping and it's jumping, it's the people. She said, if you go to a place, it could be a hole in the wall. If it's popping or ain't nothing going on, it's the people. She said, people make a town. And that's right.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't know if there's anyone online as well that would like to comment today. But anyone else in the room?
I do have one more slide.
Oh,
I got my computer creating
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't know there were more slides.
Well, there's just one.
Okay.
When we talk about that residential increase of $11 for this year, haven't totally verified these numbers yet, and I did not include all the top 10 on here just because it made things so small. So I took out Polk and Lynn. But of the other largest 8 counties, I've analyzed how much their property taxes, county share only again, how much it changed over the last 3 years. And Blackhawk County, the reason I want to bring this up, we have an average rate of increase of 1.41% a year. This is total collections. That's the second lowest of these 8 counties. Only Story County is lower. And that 1.41%, it is well below the rates of inflation, particularly with what we have seen inflation. We all know the costs that we're paying at the grocery store and everywhere else, how much they've gone up. So I do think it's important to recognize that costs for us have risen too. When we have to buy groceries for people in the jail, it costs more, we have to pay for it. So I just thought that it just is important to see the 3%. I think that the board is trying very hard to control property taxes as much as we can and still provide the services that people want us to provide. So that was all I wanted to share. I don't know the details of their situation.
Well, thanks for that last slide.
Yeah.
But I think that as far as, we'll have comments here from the board, but it is for you to know how seriously we all do take budget and how difficult it is and how many sessions we have to look and relook and try to evaluate what services, what programs we're looking at. Our staff does an excellent job. I probably should say this for the comment section for the board, but they do consider the taxpayers. And when they bring projects to us, they aren't frivolous at all with those projects and needing us to cut those projects. They do an excellent job of looking out for all of us as taxpayers and providing the services they are supposed to do, whether it's mandated or by design of what the county residents want. So I just want you to know how seriously we take this process and how many meetings, like I said, we have and conversations we have. And I think even yesterday, answered some phone calls, answered some emails, people trying to understand this statement and understanding where we are and what that is and saying, we are still looking at budgets and hoping to make additional changes, but we need to have that discussion among all of us. But appreciate you here today and to be here and express your interest and your needs. And you mentioned each of our, I guess, the populations that we have and we serve of all ages. But yes, we do consider people on fixed incomes as well as others that are struggling and having a difficult time. And to the question of, yes, as you mentioned, things are popping. There's nothing more that we would like, and I can say this collectively for all board members, and they can say it themselves, to grow our population and have more jobs, more opportunities, keep more young people here, have more amenities for our residents. I can't say that enough, how much we want that for this community. And it's a struggle to tax the people we have to tax for the services we do without having population growing. So I thank you for, like I said, your patience, I guess, and maybe your support in the job that we're trying to do for all of you, as well as we're taxpayers too, but for everybody to consider us as residents in Blackhawk County, how important it is. So if there, are there any more, one more round, one more question or comment? Yeah, completely different or than?
I'm sorry?
Completely different?
No, it's different, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
That's
Craig Lafredo, 1120 Ridgemont Road.
Thank you.
Somehow, that slide that you just put up really didn't mean a lot to me. Because, you know, I don't work with those numbers every day. So somehow, you all have to communicate with us a whole lot better. It doesn't help me for you to say, the state sent that out, they did X, Y, Z. Why don't you put something together that says, okay, the state is saying it's gonna go up 10%. Then what we're gonna add is X, Y, Z. And make it so a normal person.
We would like to, we actually.
But you can do, I mean, you're the county, right? I mean, you can decide to put that out.
Well, we can put out a separate document, we actually.
Yeah, that's fine.
We actually asked the state if we could put additional explanation in that mailer you got, and we were told no. We can't touch it.
But you can send something out that explain, I mean, this causes a whole lot of angst. And I don't think, and this has been sent out for how long?
This is the third time.
Okay, so I don't think sitting here after the third time to say, oh, that's the state sent that out and X, Y, Z. I think you gotta communicate with us a whole lot better, right? How much do we have in increased valuation? New homes, new businesses, those kind of things. How much do we have that we're moving forward? And then what percentage is that changing? Because all of those things, and let's not get into agriculture, right? Which is capped.
That would take a long time.
Which is capped, right? I got in trouble for talking about that at the state level.
I bet.
And so my challenge to you is to talk to people like me that don't understand all that and don't get all the angst going, because you know that's what happens, right?
We do.
And
That's what
so-
it's about.
Yeah, so somehow you have to communicate from a county level that says, oh yeah, those state people, you know, they live down there. Where we live is here, and this is what we're proposing.
Craig, I've worked with the assessor, and we did 4 town halls to try and communicate with folks on how your property assessments are set, property values are set. A lot of people want to know that information, but I didn't have a single class where we had more than 10 to 15 people there.
Yep.
A lot of people want to know it, but they don't want to take the time to understand it.
Sure.
Or take the time to learn it. Now,
Sure.
I'm going to continue as long as I can and work with the assessor to help communicate what that process is. And also I want to continue working to educate folks on what the other services the county has. We're trying to do something to educate folks.
Right.
But we need the folks also to engage in responding to the things we're trying to do
Sure.
to educate them.
Sure.
So we are trying to do some things here that it ain't connecting, but when you get this in the mail, we're trying the best we can with what we have to work with them. You know,
Sure.
you asked the question, how many retirees we have. Tim gave us information last year. 2 out of 5 homes in Blackhawk County is owned by someone 65 and older. That may go up this year, because I turned 65 here in July. So, in this process, we're aware of the things that are going on in the county, and we're trying to make the best decisions we can for all of them. It's not just something we're ignoring. It has been very frustrating knowing there has not been anything consistent in the past years and how the budget is set and the valuations and the rollback. It is very frustrating that we cannot have something that would be the same year after year. It doesn't work that way. The system is not set up that way.
Yep.
But we are trying to do the best we can.
Right, and so when you have a system that is out of control or out of balance, that means you have to communicate a lot more. And please forgive me for this, but what you just described is you want people to come to you.
No.
Right? What we
I'm
have
making it
to do,
available for them.
I understand that, but what we have to do is go communicate where they are. Right? And the people aren't in here. Right? They're out there. And the state apparently, right, wrong, or indifferent, has said, hey, this is how we're going to communicate. Now it's up to you to figure out how to stop the angst. And I'm sorry you have to do that, but the state's going to do what they're going to do. But if people are finding this and they're getting it in their home, and there's only 10 people showing up for those things, well, then we better figure out how to get the information to them.
Well,
and not just call a meeting and
appreciate
expect people to show up and those kind of things. We gotta get it to them.
I appreciate you. I couldn't agree with you more. We've got last year and a half, 2 years maybe now. We've hired a communications person that helps. Whether folks are going to a town hall or they're not, most folks are thumbing through their phone at night, right? And so she's worked diligently over the last couple of years to build, Gabby.
So we put the beat on you?
No. She is doing a great job of strategically increasing that following, that base, that engagement. I think it's good for us to hear your comment that what you're needing is specific content. So that when you're scrolling, it's maybe not just about this event or this thing, it is more, maybe a little more meat on the bones when it comes to how this process plays out. Yes, it's $32,000 to send a piece of mail to every, sort of following piece of mail, but perhaps that means that we're investing a little bit more, with Gabby's help, of communicating what the real tax askings are, not this sort of beating of a hornet's nest mailing that everyone's getting and comes back incredibly frustrated with. So I as you were talking, I was making eyes at Gabby, that I do think that there's room for us to continue to improve on that, and I think it's a point well made.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Promote Rich.
All right, we'll move on then to item D, comments by the Board of Supervisors.
Pretty much just said mine.
Me too, but I was gonna say.
Yeah,
give
I'll just say,
everybody
this is my 10th time going through the budget process, and it gets more complicated every year because we don't know what's coming down from the stage and how we have to react. We have to do our best guess job at, predicting what's going to happen. But we've done a really good job over those 10 years, which is why you see headlines from across the state of different local governments that are in budget crisis, where they're having a layoff, hundreds of people in some cases. They have multi-million-dollar deficits, and it's because they didn't do as good of a job in some cases of really kind of planning for the future, which is what we've always done here in Blackhawk County, which I'm pretty happy with how this budget's going to fall. We've got a few more cuts and tweaks that we're going to make over the coming weeks, but I really appreciate the diligence of the staff, and I really appreciate the feedback from the public today, both in person and online and in emails like this. We want you engaged in this process, and I think especially I really appreciate the points on communication, because that's the direction that we're trying to head, but I think some good ideas kind of bubbled up today that we're going to take action on. And so thank you for those comments from your perspective as well. But I think I'll save more comments for when we do the final adoption.
Largely what's either been said or I've said already. I share folks' frustration in the mailing. It does stir things up outside of productivity, frankly. I think it shows a level of distrust with local government that should not be there. And it is frustrating. With that said, I think there is room for us to improve with the communications to outline the adjustments that we've made throughout our almost 3-month process of budgeting. That hopefully will make it so that families don't have to come out and then, you know, have to come to us, to Craig's point, have to come to us to gain an insight, but instead can do so, you know, in their living room as they're doom scrolling, maybe find a little bit of positivity on county social. I appreciate folks taking out time to come today and online to engage with us. I think that all of us take this responsibility seriously. We hear concerns, we've made adjustments, we'll continue to make adjustments, we'll continue to try where we can to offset some of the increases that counties and government entities across the state and across the spectrum are forced to get to. I'm proud of the fact that we've done ours very publicly and at as minimal of increases as we can responsibly get to. We also have some state policies that impact, to Chris's point, we're at this spot where we aren't having to have these spikes or these massive layoffs or any of that because of responsible governance. That is sometimes made harder with state policy, and so definitely encourage engagement with your state legislators. But you know, we're having to look at allowable caps moving forward and what that means. So there is a little bit of magic 8-ball that has to come into county governing or county budgeting. That's unfortunate, especially while we're in budget session, while the legislature is in session, and we're unsure of what they're going to pass. Every year they pass something as it relates to property tax. Honestly, we wish they would adjourn so that we would know what we're looking at moving forward. But that's not the world that we live in. We're sort of at the, we move as they sort of allow us to move. And we share some frustrations, but I guess my ultimate point is be assured that we are trying as much as possible to minimize that tax asking, because we recognize that we're in the same boat. Nobody likes paying taxes. No one does. Truth of the matter is we're all gonna have services that we need, and that's going to require a level of taxes, and we're doing our best to keep those down.
I don't have much to say. Not going to defend what we're doing. I mean, we could do better. I think we should have done better so far in this budget process. And I'm still bothered by the fact that we're giving almost $250,000 away, which was one of the last things that we decided to do to NGOs. And then we added, I think, 4 positions on top of that as well. And so it is frustrating when I see that there's a lot of work that we could do. Granted, some of those dollars came out of reserves, but my problem is that wasn't even on the table to discuss until the very last phase of this budget stuff. So yeah, we could do a lot better. That's my position on it. And to your point, sir, it's an election year. I don't know. I think if we're making decisions to get votes and keep our jobs, then we're making the wrong decisions. If we're doing it for the wrong reasons, then we probably need to get kicked in the curb, to be honest with you. But we need to be doing things for the right reasons, and that's when you're on a fixed income and costs and everything else continues to rise. Those are the things that we need to be making, or it needs to be a priority for us to be thinking about that. So whether you like me or not, I'm okay with it, but that's my 2 cents.
I just look at this as the 13th meeting we've had dealing with the budget, and we still have a couple more before we're done. So this isn't an overnight thing, it's a lot of homework. I've got spreadsheet after spreadsheet and how it's changed every week we go through this. And it continues, it's whittling it down, whittling it down, whittling it down. What is options, what is, and it just, it's a process, it's not something we take lightly. So, we're doing the best we can.
Again, I want to thank you all for being here. I guess, and I talked too much probably throughout the program, but I was going to say, I do want to extend to all of you, please reach out to us. It is like our emails, our phone numbers, our meetings, whatever. We welcome you to come to any of our meetings, not just budget meetings, but any. But to please make yourselves available too, to state your concerns. Because obviously we're not going to be able to touch every taxpayer. Can we improve communication? Always. It's something I think we always say, no matter how well we think we're doing, we could always do better. Whether it's with social media, whether it's just, mailing costs money, we know we have to look at the cost. There was something we were thinking about sending out for districting, because all of us are up for election this year. It will be a very different election than it has been ever. And could we send something out and we look at the cost that was going to be, and how much are we doing the taxpayers a service, and how much are we still charging for something like that, because it comes from taxpayer dollars. So we weigh a lot of decisions, I guess is what I want to say to you. And like I say, we can do better, but we are going to have more sessions. We are not done with our budget. We are still going to be looking at and weighing services and what we're distributing, but not just in our outside or external organizations, but what we've looked at from our county budgets and the departments. I did want to me, this was something that I reflected on just recently, because someone had posted on Facebook, one of the comments, and I think to me that, thanks for the good job you're doing, something similar to that. But we know taxes always go up, they never go down. And I took that very personally, obviously, and I had a slide that showed that from 2017 until current last year, we did reduce the taxes 3 times since 2017. So, and that wasn't just holding them steady, that was reducing the taxes. So it's a mix of what we try to do here. It's not ever, it's like I said, we're struggling with a lot of things that impact us. We talk about state that mandates many of the things that we do, that we don't have any wiggle room in there to say, okay, we're not gonna do this year, or we're not gonna do the mailings, or that we're mandated to provide some of those services. And we ask the state in turn to please help us, give us money. You're telling us we have to go do it, but our only option is to charge the taxpayers for those services that they're mandating. And of course, we're not having a real good response at them coming to anyone's rescue, your rescue primarily. So please know that, we all take what you're saying seriously. And like I say, welcome emails, comments, calls, and anytime, not just for budget, but anytime. But I thank you very much for coming, and we welcome your participation here today. That's what it's all about, serving you, so thank you. With that, anybody else? All right, then I'll ask for a meeting to adjourn this hearing, or motion to adjourn this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing is adjourned.